or add them to the QA section onto Zoom, and we'll get to them in the last 15 minutes. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you, Bri Caplan, for joining us today on the VisualFizz Growth Series. We definitely like to kind of do sort of off the cusp and off the cuff. Is it off the cuff or off the cusp?
Cuff.
It could be both. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll follow up on that with further research. But we like to keep them pretty unstructured, but I would like to do a bit of a formal introduction, introducing myself, introducing you, Bri, introducing the growth series, and then we'll get into the meat of everything. Great. So introduction to me, I'm Marissa. I'm one of the co-founders of VisualFizz, the managing partner. I tend to hang out in the SEO and SEM departments of our agency quite a bit. The reason that we do the growth series and the reason that I'm really excited about the growth series is it helps us, really kind of share our thoughts about marketing as an agency, really get our voice out there. But more importantly than us, it helps us connect with real world people that are out there in the industry, in their own industries, just killing it, making waves and making things happen out there. So we always like to hear about the stories of other entrepreneurs, other business owners, other brand managers, how some of the actions that they've taken have led to the growth of their brand, and how we as an audience might, learn from that. So with that, Bri, we'll have you give a little bit of an introduction to yourself and where you come from, and we'll get started from there.
Awesome. Well, I'm so happy to be here. My name is Bri. I'm originally from Baltimore. I came to Chicago to attend the University of Chicago. After college, I worked as a data scientist at a couple of different tech startups. Where working in tech, it very quickly became apparent the diversity problem, where as few as 15% of data scientists are female. So that's really what catapulted me into starting my nonprofit, Code Your Dreams, where we teach computer science for underfunded school districts. I'm also the founder of CoderHeroes. We make coding fun and imaginative through play for younger children.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that. Well, we're really excited to have you on the growth series today just because of everything that you're doing between the CoderHeroes, between the Code Your Dreams. It's really it's something that needs to be done. It's a mission that we care about deeply at the agency as well. And then on a personal note, the economic implications of access to information and access to the internet and that kind of things, especially in school-age children, especially in other groups of people that might not have access to the same technology that some others do. The implications are just so expansive. So we're really excited to get started and kind of talk about the growth of that all. Yeah, with that, so definitely have an interesting background you do in your career, starting with data scientists and kind of moving into the nonprofit. But obviously the nonprofit aligns quite a bit. What inspired you to start the nonprofit? Some people, not everybody, but some people sort of have this like breaking point or this like they woke up one day and they saw it in the cards for them. So I'd love to hear if you had a similar epiphany point that inspired you to create this.
Yeah, I don't know if there was like a single moment. I've always been just really, really passionate about education. I've always been someone that I'm a little bit hard-headed, where if I see something that's wrong, I really want to fix it. I really want to find a solution. And so when I started working in the tech world and just going to conferences, going to different tech meetups, and just seeing the overall lack of diversity, I wanted to do something that could help. And for me, I've been thinking about this curriculum for a really long time, since I was in college. Like, how can we teach computer science with really a social justice lens? And so I don't know when was the point where I said, yes, nonprofit life is going to be my life. But I certainly decided that I was the right person to be teaching this type of curriculum. So I don't know what the point was. I honestly, just for a while, I tried reaching out to different community centers and schools saying, I have this curriculum. I know there's a need for more computer science programs. Who is interested? It took almost a year for someone to say, yes,
Wow.
I'm interested, which now makes complete sense, because if you don't have a track record of success, why should you teach my children? Right. But once, I did get that yes, and there was just so much success and the outcomes were amazing for the students that I taught. They were a group of middle school girls. That's when I knew, like, this needs to be incorporated as a nonprofit.
Yeah, awesome. Something you just said, we can go a lot deeper in, the concept of women in tech and women in coding, how sparse it is to find them across. And obviously it starts at school age children, so for you to plant that seed and just get kids, first of all, excited and then knowledgeable from an early stage, it just opens so many doors. So I think it's really cool to, position tech and coding to children in such a way. Yeah, and I think social justice lens is sort of the phrase that I've been looking for, trying to figure out exactly how to brand, the kind of stuff that the impacts that you have there. Would you say that, maybe it's a nonprofit that's kind of focused on girls and women's education, or is it kind of for all children, all genders? Either way is totally fine, of course. Just would love to hear your thoughts on either.
Yeah, so we're really an incubator of underrepresented voices, tech skills, and social justice. So we have a few different audiences that we reach. We look at, there are actually computer science deserts that exist. So similar to
Wow.
food deserts, neighborhoods that don't have access to computer science programming. So that is, for example, one of the places that we make sure that we provide our programs. We do have some programs that are specifically for girls, other underrepresented groups in technology. But in general, our goal really is to just, help develop that pipeline of underrepresented talent into the technology sector, which is something that everyone is really rooting for, just technology companies, people in general.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sure that there are inherent challenges that come along with any nonprofit space. Funding, there's usually the joke that I make internally when we work with the nonprofits. We actually do work with quite a few at VisualFizz. We definitely all sort of have a passion for nonprofits from our own perspectives, which I think is really cool. So we know the challenges of them. There's like $4 to go around when it comes to budget. So obviously all nonprofits have these challenges. I'm sure you in particular have some really unique challenges as it relates to these, technology deserts, and, trying to not only get access to information, but it needs to be actually on a device too, something that people access this information with. So I would love to talk through some of the challenges that you in particular are faced, how they're unique specifically to Code Your Dreams, even CoderHeroes, maybe talk about the differences between those two and highlight their own unique challenges. I'm sure that you have them. I think that'd be awesome to hear about some of those.
Definitely. Well, you just brought up one of them, which is technology and just access to technology. I think that the pandemic made it even more evident than it was before what the technology gap is. So, I mean, the quarantine life, work from home, virtual school started early last year, right? We still had programs that started late last year where students didn't have computers. Many
Wow.
students didn't have tablets. Many students have been learning from their smartphones the entire year. And so something
Dang.
that we do as part of our program is we do provide students access to all the technology that they need, not just to be consumers of technology, but also to be builders of technology. So
I love it.
computers, internet, mobile devices for mobile development. But I ask people to imagine being at work, being at school for an entire year and having to do it from a smartphone, right?
Oh
You
my
have
gosh.
assignments, you have to be on it all day. This is how you have your social interactions, and it's all on the smartphone. So definitely for us, technology and access to technology is a challenge and something that is critical to, not just being a part of our program, but also being able to be a part of school every day.
Yeah, I mean, it's so wild how, especially in today's age, to use the phrase that everybody uses all so often, you really do need literally access to these devices to participate in society, for all intents and purposes, in order to communicate with others, in order to order food, in order to, half the time buzz yourself into your apartment. You use your smartphone, you use technology. So it's definitely something everyone takes for granted. And it's wild how it definitely has always been an important part of what we do, but now it's basically integral to society, having access to this. One question, or one thing that you said that I just love, is not only to consume technology, but also to build it, to contribute. I think this is so awesome. And it's such a gap that is missed in a lot of education. You always hear those people that are like, kids are on their phones 8 hours a day. It's like, are you joking? Maybe they're learning really awesome stuff. Maybe they're learning about space or coding or trying to participate in assignments that could be a lot easier elsewhere. But I just really think there's some really beautiful things that can happen when there's access to technology outside of just tech. Art can happen when everybody has access to this stuff. Creativity, building websites, building programs, building new tech. It all starts at this school age stuff. So I definitely can get a little too excited. I'll take a step back from all of the cool things that can come from STEM learning and tech in the early ages of childhood, but it's just so integral. So I think this is a good segue for us to maybe talk through some of the after school programs, some of the maybe housing stuff, and even the MIT programs that you're trying to do and partner with. I think it'd be awesome for us to hear some of those programs and maybe talk about some of the challenges from there. We can dive into the growth of it all from there, but I think kind of laying the foundation of the extra things and the branding partnerships that you're doing would be a really great piece of information to have.
For sure. So partnerships, I always say, is the heart of what we do. They really, just help support our students even more than what we are able to provide. So we have programs for elementary school students, middle school, and high school, all surrounding the idea of community. How do we ideate, design, build, and market apps that make an impact for our communities? We also have young adult programs that are specific to transitioning students into the technology sector. So really those career-ready skills. Some of our amazing partners that I love to highlight, we actually have a new partnership this summer that's with After School Matters and the Chicago Housing Authority. The reason I bring that up is I just think that for nonprofits, especially the work that we do, by partnering with other organizations that provide different types of things, we can just create these like wraparound services for students to just like support them in all of the different ways that students need to be supported. So for teens, there are so many challenges that they're constantly facing and thinking about, from all different aspects of academic support, mental health, wellness, and all of that. So these types of partnerships are just really important. The other one that you mentioned is, so last year we launched our Justice Involved program. So these are specifically for justice involved youth and young adults, providing the opportunities and programs that we have. With MIT specifically, we're currently fundraising for this program. So we're looking for additional corporate sponsors if anyone's listening.
You gotta, yes.
And we have a few different audiences that we're reaching with our program. So one are people who are currently incarcerated, two are gang involved youth, and then third are youth in diversionary programs. It's, having the support behind us of all different types of organizations and companies really just helps us do the good work that we're able to do for students.
Yeah, and I think I love everything that you just mentioned, and it's really the emphasis on this word of student. Anyone can be a student, if it's a child, if it's a young adult, if it's an older adult, if it's someone that falls into the gray market. Even I just love the concept of students, of always learning, and obviously the implications, the social justice lens of something as simple as access to coding information, just learning to build a website, even learning how coding works opens so many doors that you just wouldn't expect. So it's kind of, I'm like blown away by the amount of overlap between like after school programs and housing associations and even gang involved members, all of these things that we care so much about in Chicago because it's in our face all the time, every day. It seems so, it's wild how impactful such a, you'd think it was small, but it's obviously not. Such a program like this really is into the communities that we care so deeply about. Very cool. Great. So yeah, I mean, definitely we've covered some of the challenges of nonprofit life and that sort of thing. Let's talk about some good things now instead of just challenges. So obviously, there's something to be said about creating a brand. It wasn't there one day, and then it was the next day. It's tangible and it's real now, and it wasn't, and that's definitely on your shoulders. So I think it does take a little bit of a hard head, a little bit of thick skin when it comes to being a business owner. If you didn't have that hard head and you didn't have that drive, it wouldn't be in existence. That thing that didn't exist before would still not exist. So I think it's awesome to talk about brand owners and brand creators. Obviously there's a mission behind what you do, but you really have created a brand that's different than any other brand. When I was doing some research on Code Your Dreams, or even you, Bri, a couple of things that came up online, and I'm an SEO, so I definitely, like pieced through the SERPs, the search engine results page, and took a look at what was out there on the web for some of the things that you've done. And a couple Forbes articles came up, some really great PR, kind of exposure was centered around the brand. I think it's awesome. First of all, it's solely because of the mission that you do, in a lot of ways, because it just hits home in so many different layers of the communities that we're in. But those are very desirable things when others are trying to build brands. They're like, oh man, if I could just get in Forbes, then I'd make it. Once you've been in Forbes, we've been featured in Forbes too. Once you've been there, you find out that it's much less glamorous than you expected, but still these growth factors matter quite a bit. How did you guys, go about marketing the brand or getting out there and kind of getting some exposure around the brand? If you have tips on how to gain, literally specifically Forbes backlinks, that'd be awesome. Or if it's more general about, kind of general PR and reputation management, that would be great too.
Yeah, for us, I would say it's just been a lot of trial and error. We just try to put a lot out there and see what sticks and just ask for just like general feedback. Like something that's important to us is just having like a very diverse number of volunteers behind us and just having lots of diverse voices within our organization, because that allows us to just get like a lot of good feedback. So like even logo, like the first logo that we had, I literally drew on a piece of paper and scanned it. I even have a sweatshirt that has this like hand drawn logo, which is kind of embarrassing, but it's like we keep evolving and evolving things and aren't afraid to just kind of put something out there and then hear like very negative things about it and just kind of like switch it up and put something else out there and see what sticks. Because we're really like a grassroots organizations. So again, yeah, it's a lot of trial and error. For Forbes, that was just me emailing random people. So that article came out right after COVID hit. So when COVID hit, our budget at Code Your Dreams went about 10x. And that was largely due to technology and the technology needs of in person and being able to do resource sharing with different classes at different class times versus at home where every student needs their own individual devices at home as well as internet. So with that just huge amount of funding that we needed, we didn't have time to say like, let's write a grant, or like, let's write 5 grants and let's wait 12 months and see, hopefully we'll get it. And then like, we didn't have time to do any of that. We needed the funding ASAP. So I wrote a different curriculum, started doing paid classes. And then I was like, I just need publicity now. I need people to know about it. We just need funding as soon as possible. I have students right now. So I wrote an email with just like everything I was doing. I Googled like, what is the email for Forbes? What is the email for Chicago Tribune? What are other publications that people do? And I just sent emails out to all of them. It was just like news@forbes.com or something like that. And someone was nice enough to respond to me.
Oh, there you go.
And so, yeah, I think it was a lot of luck probably. But just,
I would say, actually, sorry to interrupt you there, but that concept, this is always a big one for me, the concept of luck. When someone says, oh, you're lucky that, or, it was really lucky that. This does not sound like luck to me at all. This sounds like this is basically the PR strategy that we use internally, doing the research, building the relationships, trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. This is a lot of effort. This is a lot of work. I would say that there's not a lot of luck involved in this process, but a lot of hard work. It's actually, I kind of laugh about that, the overlap between, what we do at the agency and kind of the marketing agency life and the advice that you just gave here. So I did take a couple notes, and the bullet points that I jotted down were, some tips for growth from you, trial and error, just keep going, see what sticks. Make sure you have a diverse team so that you can get all viewpoints from all around. Don't be afraid to put stuff out there. Done is better than perfect. You can get feedback on it and grow from there. And then go out and get it. Put in the effort that it takes to grow. All of these concepts are just so applicable to life. I mean, it's just crazy advice. So I would say, I can't let that one go. I can't hear that it was luck. You put too much effort in to make things go, and I think that that's pretty evident that it's led to the growth of the brand.
Thank you. You just summarized that so well. Like, took all of my words and put into summary so well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit what we do. Remember, I was telling you that I take notes like a crazy person and kind of all over, but it's really me organizing my thoughts. So that's what we do when we pitch. If anyone's watching this and I'm ever talking to you and also looking slightly distracted writing down, it's because I'm summarizing what we've said to revisit. But I do think, a lot of really cool points were covered. The concept of trial and error, that's part of having your own business. You spoke before about being hard-headed. We call it being thick-skinned. You got to just keep moving forward, and you got to take bad advice, or not bad advice, excuse me, negative feedback about something that you thought was awesome. And then others are like, it's not, here's why. You got to be able to take that, roll with it, and then move on to the next thing. That's how we grow. So I love it. I think there's so many things that can be highlighted at that point, just about those growth factors. And it is kind of funny, not to digress us too much, but when we were chatting before, we were talking about kind of the overlap between SEOs and a little bit of what you do in the space. In a lot of ways, obviously, excuse me, Code Your Dreams and CoderHeroes, you guys have a great mission, and I would hate to compare it to general SEO. It's not quite the same, but in a lot of ways, SEOs sort of determine how information is received. It's not like we can necessarily control full visibility, but the kind of keywords and certain key tags or ways that I create content as a creator, as an SEO, can determine who sees them. For example, I was chatting with you yesterday. One of the examples I gave, and I promised my husband I would use it. One of my aunts went to one of the rallies of the past presidential administration, one of them. And somebody got a picture of her, kind of waving this flag in front of a building. And whoever it was, if it was the web developer, if it was the SEO, if it was the actual, like journalists themselves, marks the image up as like angry white lady or angry white liberal lady. I forget which it is. And she is found on the first image search page of Google when you search that, kind of depending on your location. I think it might just be Chicago based, but still, you know, it's wild to think that just a couple of words can determine what is seen and what is not. I think the overlap is really relevant to access to information technology and making sure that people have, you know, just basically the right info, correct stuff, you know, the full breadth of information that they want. It allows children to learn at their own pace. It allows, you know, for some computer science deserts, there's obviously some kind of, what do we even call this? Do we call it textbook deserts, where textbooks are just so out of date that they're wildly inaccurate? You know, so if that, you know, group of kids has access to the internet, or things are tagged in a way that makes it really easy to find everything that they're looking for, we are all that much better off because everybody has access to the right stuff. So I digress this a little bit. We'll definitely pull this back, but I think it is really cool to kind of think about the overlap between, you know, information and how it's put out there, how we tag it, and then how it's able to be found by those who use it.
Right. No, it's really interesting because you use the word creator, and it begs the question of like, you know, there is a small percentage of people who are creators of technology, right? So, and that percentage of people who are the builders and creators of technology, it's a very small segment of the population. And so a lot of the drive behind what we're doing is we really want to enlarge that segment of the population to give the power of technology to everyone, because it is so influential. It is so pervasive to absolutely all aspects of society and just everyday life. And so I think our world will just be so much better if we can put that power into the hands of more people, more communities. I just think that the potential impact of that is enormous.
I agree. It's very, very cool. So we're about 5:35, about 10, 15 minutes left. So if there are a couple questions, we can ask them. I can kind of rapid fire some of my own questions if there aren't a ton. Definitely have some written down for you. But yeah, thanks for everything that we've talked about. If anyone is interested in learning more about Code Your Dreams or CoderHeroes, we definitely will have information on our landing page about the nonprofits that you're involved in, Bri. And of course, we'll have your contact information about the best way to get a hold of you if people have more information about, you know, wanting to get involved or wanting to say, you know, great job, or, you know, any kind of sponsors or funding that we might be looking for there. That will be perfect. So that will be included in the wrap up. Let me see if there's any questions. I don't think don't do this Zoom. Okay, geez, I apologize. It looks like the window that has the Q&A isn't pulling up for me. And last time it did this, it totally crashed my Zoom. So I will have a couple of questions for us, and we can have anybody type questions out into the chat there. We'll go that route. Yeah, so a deep rapid fire questions. You know, what would you say in your career was kind of a turning point? Out of all of the jobs that you've had, when did the stars kind of align for you?
Oh goodness. So I mean, a few different ones. I think that honestly, every job that I've had, there was some point that influenced me. My first job, I was at an advertising firm where I really put on just like so many different types of hats at the firm. I worked in analytics and software development and media planning and all of these things. And I just like found a love of technology, like within like advertising technology. And that's what launched me to want to join a technology startup. Then when I was at the technology startup, amazing company, amazing people, but there wasn't a mission that I could really align myself with. So that's when I started Code Your Dreams, because I wanted to really have like a purpose and a mission and something to put 100% of my like passion and determination into. Um, and then the last company that I joined, I think it's the most amazing technology company ever. They have the best people, and just their heart and their mission is everything. They have a great leader too, Adovo. And so that is really when I saw like there are these education technology companies that are changing the world, and that really, really inspired me.
Yes, no, I definitely love what I'm hearing. This concept of wanting more, I can relate to that. That's one of the reasons why, I decided to join up with my VisualFizz partner and kind of decide to start something bigger, is the want for something more. And I will say that every time we at the agency have ever worked with nonprofits, it just feels so awesome, to actually look at the work that you did and then know that you're making an impact and making the world a better place. I can really relate to having that be your drive, kind of giving you purpose. That's why you do the trial and error, because you know what's at the end of it. You know what is going to happen when you can make it go. So it doesn't surprise me that, you're the kind of lady that needs a mission and everything that she does. I think that that's definitely evident in everything you've built, and kind of the personality from this. I just think it's awesome. I really relate to that. Another question I had, what's your favorite part about teaching tech and code in particular? Teaching, of course, has its own, benefits, and it's very fulfilling. You're really making an impact. All teachers out there just deserve, I don't know, a cupcake and a little margarita. Somehow I want to give that to all teachers out there. They really are doing the work that needs to be done, and not a lot of people will do. But I'd love to know your favorite part about teaching, or if there's a special story that you have just in your back pocket. Would love to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many moments that are just like magical moments within teaching. Like when you see confidence grow in students, that's huge. I mean, there's always like a spark when it comes to computer science where students just like get it. And a lot of times it's when, students have been coding for a long time. And then finally we get to the point where like, let's test your code for the first time on a smartphone. And then you see your app on a phone and it is just fire. That moment is incredible, right? I mean, we also do pitch days. So at the midpoint and then the end of our program, we pitch to special guest judges, and just seeing students like they pour all of themselves into the app that they've built, and they just pitch it like they are on Shark Tank, and the cameras and the lights are on them. It's incredible. But like, honestly, just getting to know students as people and just knowing like you're a part of their journey. Like, I know that there are teachers in my life who have literally changed me and changed my trajectory. So the opportunity to do that for a young person or just a person, because we're all on our unique learning journeys, and I don't think that ever stops. Like, my grandfather turned 100. He's still on his unique learning journey. Wow. He's learning every day. And so just like being there and being a part of that is so wonderful.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That does sound so rewarding. And I do feel, I have some very kindergarten, like elementary experience in developing apps, and holy man, it's hard. And I think I'm like a smart, capable person. It's really tough. So I that's so impressive to even have a kid get to see it and actually get to have that. And also the experience in practicing pitches. That is so incredibly valuable. I almost wish I didn't have that until I hit college, where it was like, oh, this is the idea that I have. And you're kind of like hiding behind it. If I had had that since I was a kid, who knows what would have happened. And that was, not even in a tech situation. So I just think there's so many small, really impactful, really cool things that add up to everything that we're doing here. One other question that I wanted to make sure that we chatted on, as we were talking about building the actual content or reaching out to these people. I know that in marketing, there's so many different directions to look and so many ways to kind of put your focus. I'm sure in the nonprofit world, it's like twofold, tenfold, whatever the exponential value of it is, it's got to be greater. How do you stay focused when there's so many, different routes that you can take? There's so many people that need kind of help, need assistance, need the support. There's so many routes a nonprofit can go. How do you stay focused?
It's so hard. It is so terribly hard, especially when you're like, we can impact so many different things, and you're like a kid in a candy store, like, what can we impact next? But then there's time and there's money, and you can't do everything. So as a nonprofit, just like other companies, we have a mission and vision, and that's really our North Star and our guiding star. And so we know what we're best at doing. We know what we're meant to do. And so that helps us a little bit in just navigating where we go.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm sure one of the challenges with any brand is sort of to define what it is. And it's a scary thing to do that, because when you define what it is, you're shutting out everything it's not. Right. We actually see, brand managers or even our clients, a lot of startups, they come to us and they're like, we're having trouble defining it. And you can kind of just see the fear. You can see the fear in their eyes. And it's because it's scary to define, what something is, but it really does keep your focus. Mm-hmm. There's a lot, exactly like you mentioned, I feel like there's an endless stream of all of the different ways a nonprofit can go, but defining that mission and sticking to it is how you make the growth happen. That's for sure. Great advice. Yeah. And then, kind of on the concept of advice for other business owners, obviously what we're doing here is we're here to learn. We're here to learn from you and kind of look at the footsteps that you've taken in your career and learn how we can apply them to. What's some advice that you would give to others in the nonprofit space, maybe others that want to teach in tech or kind of share your values and your mission? Any advice that you would give to others like you?
Yeah, I think my biggest advice is just to talk to everyone. The best thing you can possibly do is just listen, and talk to everyone who's currently in the space, people who are in ancillary spaces, people that you want to help, people that have helped you. And I think that just the talking with people, people will start following behind you just because you're talking about the things that you care about, and you'll find people naturally who care about similar things. So I think that's the way you can find volunteers, you can find potential staff, you can find board members. And that's really where I found just a lot of people is just blabbering about what I care about and what I'm passionate about in as many spaces as possible. Even though before I started Code Your Dreams, I never felt like my voice belonged in a space. And so I kind of forced myself. And this is why I tell, especially to young girls, is that you need to take up space. You need to let your voice be heard. I love it. Because it does matter, and one person can make an impact.
Oh, such a good message to hear, taking up space. So many, we don't have to turn it into a girl power rant, but, so much is encouraging girls to be smaller and kind of make yourself quieter, kind of take up less space. Not today. No, I love it. This is a wonderful message for sure. Awesome. Yeah, I would say, the concept of find your tribe. It's what they always tell you. I grew up in a very, very small town, and you definitely you could tell if you didn't belong in a certain place. You're like, I feel weird, and it's super obvious. And then when you kind of, find others and build your network up a bit, find your tribe, as the phrase goes, it just feels so much better. You're supported, you're confident in what you're doing, you're able to take big leaps when maybe you would take small steps before. So I think that's awesome advice for sure. Yeah. And then the last one, I hate to make everything COVID related these days, but maybe we should, you said, make sure that you're talking all the time, make sure you're building that network. Do you have any advice for how to do that in COVID times? It's okay if it's just, Zooming, or if you don't have a ton, I know I am putting you a little bit on the spot here. But if you have any advice for how to build your network, in COVID times, I think it'd be great to hear your thoughts.
I think, like, I know we're in COVID times, but you still, I mean, I do spend a lot of time on Zoom, but I just kind of take some of the like in-person feelings and just transform it into virtual. So kind of like if you were to be in the same space with someone else and you were talking, you're vibing, you're like, wow, this person's cool. You would say to them like, hey, let me take your number, or let's hang out another time. Let's talk. Like, it seems awkward to do that for some reason in a Zoom room, but I would say like force yourself to say like, hey, this was a good chat. Like, let's talk. Let's like make another meeting. And I think that for me has been helpful. It's interesting. I think of one example where someone who I've sat on a panel with during COVID. We sat on a panel again during COVID. We're like, okay, we sat on a panel 2 times together. We're like super similar. We're both overly excited people. Let's like set up one Zoom call. Like, let's actually do it. We set up a Zoom call, and then after that Zoom call, we were like so excited. We're like, let's set up a Zoom call every single week and let's see if we actually make it happen. We've been doing the Zoom call every single week, where it blows my mind that for this person, like, we haven't met in person.
Wow.
Yet. And like they're now they were in Chicago, they're now in Kenya, and we have a Zoom call set up tomorrow.
Awesome.
So, I don't know, I guess just like continue to try and just talk to people and force them to Zoom with you like I do.
No, that's really funny. I mean, this be direct, in the COVID age and getting exhausted on Zoom, it's draining because it kind of feels like you're performing for no one. You have to pick up on these social cues as you go. So I like the be direct. I like this, let's talk, or this is a great conversation, let's keep chatting. The directness, it's something, the subtle art of directness, I think, is sort of forgotten in conversation. And it sounds like in building a network in the tech age and the remote age, that directness, it can be helpful, that's for sure. I'm definitely going to try that out. The next call I have where things just are working really well will be direct. We should definitely hang out. Actually, Bri, when the world does come back, we will have to grab a drink, or maybe a social distance drink if you're back in Chicago, or wherever you're located. I believe you're located in Chicago for work and whatnot. So when you're here, we'll have to grab a drink and chat some more. I love this conversation, and I'd love to have a follow-up one.
Yes. That sounds amazing.
Perfect. Well, cool. I think we're actually at about time. So I really wanted to thank you for joining us today on the Growth Series. There's definitely, I feel like, endless conversations we could have about this stuff, but we definitely covered, a nice overview of some of the awesome work that you're doing just to make the world a better place through tech, through coding, and through these nonprofits. So thank you, Bri, for joining us. Thanks, Sydney at VisualFizz, for setting us up, and thanks everybody for attending.
Thanks so much. This was so fun.
It was. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Bye.